Yeah.
Do you think you need to learn how to give a blowjob to another boy at 11 years old?
No.
That book is in schools, recommended teaching by many teachers in America.
This is crazy. It is beyond crazy. What do you think about that, actually? Let me just stop there. At 11 years old, where were you as a child? I remember when I was 11, I was focused in school, trying to build things, trying to create things. My sexual drives weren't there yet. I'm not going to say I wasn't perverted because I did things when I was 10, 11 years old. The hormones were started to kick in. But in terms of being exposed to a lot of these things, I kind of had to look for it. I remember I was maybe 9 years old, no, 10 actually. I went on a vacation trip with some cousins of mine, and we found this magazine where we were looking at naked women. So our minds were very curious and such, definitely. But being inside of schools, I think it brings a whole new light that is just, at 11, it just seems too young. Maybe when you get older, closer to like the 18, then you make a choice, but it shouldn't be something that I feel is enforced. Why am I bringing this up? I know we focus more on the financial side of things because it is important. Why are we not taught the things about money at that point? Like, what's more valuable? Is it us learning how to build for ourselves, learning about real estate and how to maneuver in life? Because the school system doesn't really take the approach of trying to educate us that in that manner, but they put an emphasis on bringing these things more into light. Music education, it helps evolve the mind, it helps develop the brain so that you are able to think more freely, you're able to think smarter and be much more advanced in how you process things. But is funding being put more towards these things to help elevate our minds? No, it's not. Like, the importance of me sharing this is not for the case of that side of things. It's much more for the sake of, let's bring forth more things for kids now that will really help them evolve and grow further in that manner, because businesses need to evolve a lot much more. We need to get better with technology, and it is evolving, but bring forth more budgeting towards these things to help our thinkings. But I don't think they're doing that. There's a reason why this is happening. And just to take a look at some stats, which I'm gonna just quickly read off, right? Gen Z, which is anyone born from 1997 on forward, right? From that point on to 2004, right? That's what's classified as Gen Z. 21% as of 2021 are considered to be LGBTQ. If we look at millennials, so that's my generation from 1980 to 1996, in 2021, 10.5% identified as such. And if we go further, Gen X, right, 1965 to 1980, about 2.6%, right? And then the numbers, as you can see, are getting smaller and smaller the further back we go generation. And you may ask, why is that? If there's a pattern, I'm a person that likes to calculate things and I try to find patterns and things, but we are seeing more and more patterns. And think about some ways that could contribute to these patterns, right? There's a whole influential side of things now with social media. We as people have the power to influence a younger, much more generation. And I'll be frank, as I'm looking at kids these days, I'm like, man, they seem to just be getting dumber and dumber. They're just so hooked on phones and everything and so evolved. But I also try to keep an open mind at some sense too, to try to see what could potentially be causing this. And this is not me bashing on that community, because I don't have any hate against that community at all. I have a lot of people that I know inside that community. So at the end of the day, it is about love, because that's what Christ preached. But the education of gaining this, of being influenced by this, so much more inside of the media. That's the only thing I could say I'm not for. Hearing both sides is definitely important, but it should be a both sides that you hear once you're mature enough, you're older enough. And let me just play this clip here, and you might just hear it. There's this girl that she testified before Congress about a procedure that she had to went through, and some of the things that she regretted. I'm just going to be playing a small part of this.
The tissue was incinerated. Before I was able to legally drive, I had a huge part of my future womanhood taken from me. I will never be able to breastfeed. I struggle to look at myself in the mirror at times. I still struggle to this day with sexual dysfunction. And I have massive scars across my chest. And the skin grafts that they took of my nipples are weeping fluid today.
She's definitely younger than I am, so I'm assuming she is probably millennial or Gen Z. I'm not too sure. But she had the procedures done when she was younger to the point where she's telling about her regrets. She's testifying, right? But we're not seeing as much more of that. Like, you need to know both sides. If you're making a decision like that, the consequences of every decision that you make. Because there are consequences to every decision that you make. And allowing kids to make those decisions or be educated in those manner at such a young age, you didn't let their minds evolve. Because our minds really evolve once we get later to our teens, early 20s. That's when we have the full capability of thinking. Some people are smarter than others. I could say that we're much more mature, but still, you should have that capability when you are older and not be the one that's suffering and made those decisions. Now you're gonna have a lifetime of regrets against that. But instead of her focusing on that, because what she struggled with, because I saw the whole thing before she had depression, anxiety, a lot of the things that we're talking about. You see how they try to push that. Converting saves lives and all these things. I mean, I find to be another way, but obviously she's one person that I could say that did not work for her, because she's testifying now reality of how this regretted impacted her, right? Let's bring forth more education towards investment, real estate. How do you move? How does the stock market work? What are ledgers? How do you properly do loans? And understand these things that can really help us affect lives in the future. And how do we live with people? How do you build communication skills, speaking skills, so that way you can evolve in your career? How do you climb up the ladder if you want to take that route of building out your community? How do you build your own businesses? Those are some of the things I think we need to really put priority over than enforcing like this thing that they're putting inside of school. And I'm not going to mention it as much, but you're aware. My goal for this is for us to have an open mind. And there was one video, I think, I can't find it now, but this a pastor that he's always communicating, having these debates with other people. And I think it's very important because you get to hear both sides. And YouTube, I know, is accessible to everyone, because I be seeing kids around me, they're on TikTok and YouTube all the time. But seeing just one side of it is just not good, but instead it should be like both sides. Healthy debates is a great way, because I myself, I can testify that over the past few years, because I'm able to see both sides. I was a very passive Christian where I just was going to church but still fornicating, doing things that are of this world. I didn't really pay attention to that. I'm just like, yeah, I read my Bible and I pray, but I really didn't make the devotion to really devote myself to studying and understanding. But the minute I started picking that book and started reading, my eyes were much more open. I started really changing my life. And it started slowly too. 2016 was when I started really saying I'm going to be devoted to going to church every Sunday and also reading the Bible. And it was a voluntary decision. It wasn't how I was brought up where it's like, yeah, your parents forced you to go to church, because that's how many of us are forced to experience. And then we end up hating church when we get older and things like that. But they did help plant that root foundation in me, because when I felt like I was missing things in life, this is where I ran back to find a fuel for me to keep going. But I started reading the scriptures every day, praying every day, slowly and surely, right? I started being more elevated, being more deeply involved, and my life started changing. My life took a whole shift. I started seeing much more success with my relationships with people, wealth building, intelligence, wisdom that I'm able to have until 2020 with the COVID. Like, it was a blessing in disguise, because I've been able to see a lot of these street preachers talk to real people, right, who are part of that community, and have conversations and dialogues where you can see both sides and make better decisions of exactly what it is. But I was reading a lot much more. And as I was reading and seeing what people were saying, my spirit was able to discern things that I felt was right and that were not against other things as well. So it's really just making sure that you're the whole woke movement. I think that's what really woke is. It's like, if you can spiritually be able to elevate your mind and be able to discern these things, it's going to help you think a little different, a little deeper, so that way you're not just subdued to the ways that the world is trying to push forth towards. So that's my thought and takes on this. If you have children, we want our kids to be able to create impacts into this world, because I want to make sure that I put a stamp to influence kids to think freely, become leaders, become business owners and be able to help people in terms of real estate expansions, investments, and not just be driven by greed, selfish things, because there's a burnout that comes through all that stuff, and you got to be able to create that balance. And that balance is important in having that faith. And for me, that's in Jesus Christ, reading the scriptures, and evolve. And I'm on a mission right now to learn, to study with different groups, even different beliefs and religions. I had a conversation with a Muslim online recently, and he was telling me how he believes in the Quran, and he gave me like 6 different things to look for, and something I'm going to eventually look and read about. It's just another way for us to be able to not be, to really show love and show that we can engage in a healthy dialogue, but our spirits at the end of the day should be able to discern things that are right and that are wrong. And I really feel like at a young age with kids, we should really try to think about how we can instill much more. The investment should be much more towards nurturing their minds, evolving their minds, but not persuading or influencing them one way or another. It should just be completely neutral. Let's just keep the sexual side out of things until they're much more older, they're mature enough. Like, it should be much more of a choice for college, I feel, not even in high school. Even though I can testify that when I was in that age, I was doing things, the hormones was raging and kicking, right? Like, we're going to do stuff as kids. There's just no doubt about it. Like, we're going to try to explore things. But I don't think that we should put that inside of the education system. Instead, let's try to bring forth things that can really bring us for the future, prepare us for life, because we weren't taught the things for life, I think, inside of these school systems. So I hope you found this insightful. Would love to know your thoughts. Of course, peace and love. And I also say trust in Jesus. Have an amazing one. Like, share, subscribe. If you have any questions for me, drop it in the comments below. Peace. Thank you so much for checking out my video. My goal is to be able to share as much knowledge, wisdom, experience that I've been given, privilege from God over the years, to be able to give that to you, and also be able to receive from you as well. This can definitely be a two-way dialogue. It doesn't have to be one way at all. It's just for us to be engaged. And I'm just continuously sharing as things that I see move along the market. So I hope you find insights, and your feedback is greatly appreciated as well. How can you support me? Right now, I have these wristbands. You can get them at Luxtreaux.com. I've been selling them on eBay for quite some time. It just says make your statement. It's just an encouraging, inspirational message. You can purchase these right now, available on there. Eventually, it will be spun off to other things, and I'll have other products, but that's one way you can do right now. But most importantly is just making sure you receive something from the content I've given. And if you have any feedback, that is probably the most valuable thing I could say you can give to me. So I appreciate it, and I hope that we can continue to build a long-term relationship with each other and just grow with one another. Peace. And if you have any questions, definitely drop it below.